So welcome to my channel. If you're looking to break into machine learning and artificial intelligence and you'll be finding it difficult and you'll be struggling to understand some of the basic concepts, today I will take you through a resource material that will help you break into AI and machine learning seamlessly. It's a material that will give you a complete grasp of some of the basics and the fundamentals you need to know in order to do well in AI. So if you're such a person and you want to do well in AI and machine learning, just stick to the end of this video. So let's get started. So today we are here to explore a beginner-friendly resource material that can help you break seamlessly into AI. Now this book by Mark Liu, Machine Learning Animated, is a very good resource material. So it's a material that has helped me change my understanding of machine learning and AI, and some things I have read in textbooks and I struggled to understand them. Just looking at them in an animated form, within minutes the struggles of understanding those things has ended. So this machine learning animated by Mark Liu is a very helpful material when it comes to understanding and grasping some of the fundamental concepts in AI. Now just to share a few things that the author of the book said. Now, machine learning animated by Mark Liu. The author said that the release of ChatGPT has kicked off an arms race in machine learning. However, machine learning has also been described as a black box and very hard to understand, which is very true. Now, machine learning animated eases you into basic machine learning concepts and summarizes the learning process in 3 words: initialize, adjust, and repeat. This is illustrated step by step with animation to show how machines learn, from initial parameter values to adjusting each step to the final converged parameters and predictions. This book teaches readers to create their own neural networks with dense and convolutional layers and use them to make binary and multi-category classifications. So readers will learn how to build deep learning game strategies and combine these with reinforcement learning, witnessing AI achieve superhuman performance in Atari games such as Breakout, Space Invaders, Sequest, and Beam Rider. So it is written in a clear and concise style, illustrating with animations and images. This book is particularly appealing to readers with no background in computer science, mathematics, and statistics. Now, one interesting fact about the book is the fact that it's beginner friendly. Now, this video is not actually sponsored, but I'm doing this video to help those who are struggling to break into AI and machine learning, especially those who don't have background in science or mathematics or statistics. So the concepts in this book are animated in a way that makes it easy to understand. Now, as an example, in chapter 4 of this book, so when you get the book, you go through it, it explains some of the concepts, and then they show you an animation that helps you understand and grasp the AI concept or machine learning concepts in minutes. Now, for instance, this is gradient descent, which is a very important concept in AI. So key that it's very fundamental when it comes to training and having good models. So in chapter 4, new skills in this chapter: optimization through grid search, finding the optimal value through gradient descent algorithm, choosing the right learning rate in gradient descent, using the gradient tape API in TensorFlow to calculate gradient. So gradient descent is an optimization algorithm that helps in optimizing and reducing the loss function in order to get a better prediction from the model. So just to show you an example of how the animation helps learners. Now first, there's an optimization through grid search in this chapter. Now this tries to explain how grid search achieves optimization, a little bit of math and all that, and the code for that. Now as you go on in the chapter, this is a graph showing how the gradient descent or grid search is trying to find the minimum or to converge at the minimum. So this is basically a graph, but as you go down, okay, let's stop here. Now this animation is trying to show how the gradient descent converge with a moderate learning rate. So at a moderate learning rate, the gradient descent converges here at the minimum at a moderate learning rate. Now with these steps showing how it functions. So if you look at the steps here, you would notice that as the steps are increasing, the value of x is also changing, helping you to understand how the gradient descent functions. Now let's go down a little bit. Now it's important to know that in training models, that choosing the right learning rate is very important, very important. Now in particular, what happens when the rate is too large? When the rate is too large, the gradient descent with a large learning rate appears to look like a ping pong game inside a bowl, and this is how it looks like. So this is an animated gradient descent. Now you could see that from this animation, the steps, how the steps are moving rapidly from initial values to these values, and how x is changing. And now you can see that from here, the gradient descent here is not converging as expected because the learning rate is very large. Now let's come down a little bit. What happens when the gradient descent learning rate is too small? So this animation will also give you an insight to that. If you look at this, when the learning rate of the gradient descent optimization is small, you can see it takes quite some time and more resources to converge at the minimum, because the essence of the gradient descent is to reduce the loss function by moving this point down here. So in essence, the learning rate is very key in attaining a good gradient descent optimization. Now also let's look at how the book tries to compare the three gradient descent with different learning rate. Now this is the gradient descent with a large learning rate. You could see clearly from this animation that the optimization here is not converging as expected, and the values here are bouncing as if a ping pong game. And then for this one, when a moderate learning rate is used for the gradient descent, you can see it has converged at the minimum here. And when the gradient descent learning rate is small, you could also see that it does not quickly converge. It might take longer and even more computational resources. So this is just a few things that you need to understand about this book by Mark Liu, Machine Learning Animated. So it's a very useful material that can help you understand some key concepts in AI and machine learning. So now I've just taken you through some of the things you need to learn. Actually, I myself did not completely grasp gradient descent until I looked at it from the perspective of this book, Machine Learning Animated, and I saw practically in the animation how the book illustrated gradient descent and how it is affected by learning rates and steps and all that. So it's very, very resourceful material to help especially beginners and even professionals to have a solid grasp of the concept. So if you have gotten value from today's video, please do subscribe.